A quick warning before we begin. This episode contains strong language.
I'm nervous that I run into kin.
Hannah, Georgia and Rob are in central London armed with photos of kin. They're near his old apartments in a wealthy area we know he spent a lot of time in.
I guess we're kind of interested to know if kin might have been back.
It's now the summer of 2024, and by now we've gathered substantial evidence that suggests Hannah's stalker is...
Hey, are you okay?
Kin.
Not quite ready to forgive me yet.
Leave me alone.
You never think about
what you've seen so far is nothing.
Careful for your life.
And we're also starting to see through the image that Kin presented to Hannah.
What did he tell you he did? He told you he was a buyer for somewhere.
We're yet to find any evidence that Kin really worked for a major Asian fashion company.
If he's that successful, maybe people like him would like to be interviewed.
And we've discovered that he didn't quite have his own chocolate company in Milan.
The relationship didn't go forward. After a while, we asked him to close it.
The evidence we've seen also suggests that Kin could have been writing those emails.
Shame you couldn't stay in Paris for the remainder of Fashion Week.
From his so-called executive assistant, Claire.
He never gave me her number, so I think that suspicion never went away.
He went straight back to the hotel after dinner last night, missing the McQueen after party.
But why has Kin created this distorted reality? And where does Hannah fit into it?
It's almost like having a great big bag full of trash. That's what Hannah's carrying around now.
Jenny Radcliffe is the self-described ethical hacker you heard from in the last episode.
What we really need to do is empty the contents onto a great big table, sort them out to give you just some closure and some understanding of really what happened and why it happened.
We've tried to get answers from Kin. Through his London lawyers, he vehemently denies ever stalking or harassing Hannah, leaving Hannah still searching for answers.
Do you want to go a little bit ahead? Do you want me to meet you back here?
Given the risks, you might be wondering why we're getting Hannah to ask around.
Any additional information is good.
But we found that in the high-end London that Kin inhabits,
it's not a cheap area.
Hannah's better off going solo. So we've established a routine where Hannah goes in first to places on the charm offensive.
Go for it. Good luck.
And Georgia and Rob, BBC producers not known for high-end glamour, hang back out of sight, microphone at the ready.
Here she comes.
And then Hannah tells them what she's found out.
Recording.
Armed with these photos of Kin, Hannah's managed to speak to someone.
And he said, yeah, I recognise him. He said, oh, I remember the police came looking for him. 3 guys, sort of FBI style, not in uniform, with a printout of Kin, and it said wanted.
From BBC Sounds, this is Stalked.
I'm Hannah Mossman-Moore.
And I'm Carole Cadwalladr. Episode 7. Social Proof. Back in the expensive and noisy part of central London, Hannah has just learned that plain-clothed police officers were here looking for Kin. But
Kin wasn't there.
It sounds like this was back in 2019 when London's Met Police tried and failed to arrest Kin for harassing Hannah. But that's not all.
He said he was spent quite a lot of time here before COVID, and then he disappeared. And then he came back. He's been back a few times since that police warrant.
And if Kin has been back in London, he may have reconnected with some of his old contacts.
All the street style photographers.
We're back at London Fashion Week. Hannah hasn't been back since 2015, the year she met Kin. We're not going inside today, we're on the outside with the photographers and security staff, because Hannah remembers that Kin was friendly with the people on the doors. She says that Kin would buy them coffee and then stop and chat. And as we get close,
I just recognised him from across the road.
Hannah spots someone familiar.
That is the same guy that used to let Kin in. He would always be on the door.
The security guard doesn't want to be recorded, but he does talk.
He said, yeah, oh my God, you were with Kin. I said, we did front row Giles Deacon, and he was like, oh yeah, I sorted that out.
Now, of course, this could just be the security guard boasting. But then again, we know Kin used names that weren't his to get into events. For example, when we spotted him at the designer Alicia's show in the last episode, that was under someone else's name.
He said, oh, I haven't seen Kin for ages. He just disappeared and changed his number, and I haven't seen him for about 5 years.
Hannah and Georgia then try and get more information from the security guard.
He got the invites, because I remember seeing them, and they were under his company, so it was Trinity London. But then he would always let Kin into the designer showrooms and then sort him out a seat. You were like, was he in fashion? And he said, well, he was involved in a bit of everything.
And then he said he was a nice guy. He liked helping him out. He was a nice guy. Pretty women.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he said pretty women.
People we speak to, they like Kin.
Kin got what he wanted. He was really good with people and good with getting what he wanted.
Do you think the fashion world, is it easier to infiltrate than some other worlds, do you think?
Yes.
Ah, okay, interesting. Why do you say that?
It is so easy to fake your way into fashion, and that's part of the fun of it. It's like, how do we get in? How do we break through?
And in a way, that's what you were doing, I suppose. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
Kin was offering you the shortcut to, wasn't he? In fashion, like in a lot of areas of life, you get credibility from where you're seen and who you're with. Here's an example. Remember how when Hannah first met Kin, he walked into a London Fashion Week event with a friend of hers?
Such a socialite character on the scene.
Well, making this podcast, Hannah reconnected with that friend and spoke to him about that moment. Hannah remembers Kin talking about this friend as if they were close.
And he was like, oh yeah, Kin, the guy who knows everyone.
But the friend says that he didn't really know Kin that well at all.
And that was sort of what made me trust him.
We talked about this with Jenny Radcliffe, the ethical hacker.
It's classic sales technique, is to ring you up and say, hiya, I've just spoken to a colleague and they're happy to have a meeting with me on Friday to talk about X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, well, if my colleague said, then it must be okay. Or, now you've got sort of social proof.
Social proof. Don't you know something about that, Rob?
I don't know whether I should say it necessarily, but I think I first learned it in this book, which is quite controversial, called The Game, which is all about pickup artists.
Are you serious?
Can we talk about this? What?
I read this when I was probably in my early 20s.
Oh my God, were you listening to Jordan Peterson at the time?
I have read a Jordan Peterson book.
What? We need to put you through the feminist de-radicalisation programme.
Look, trying to make a point here, Carole.
You know that pickup artists, that is basically predators.
I'm aware. I mean, that book it's written as like, I infiltrated the world of pickup artists, and it's like an expose, but actually most people just read it because they want the advice.
Yes, it's like a handbook.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm aware that it's not a healthy thing now, but at the time I probably needed all the help I could get, but turned to the wrong, place. But one of the other things they do, they encourage men to show photos of you away on holiday, and this is the life you could have with me, and it's like an aspirational thing. And I was thinking, that's kind of what Kin was doing to you as well, right?
Yeah. Of course, in Kin's case, we're not sure how much of that lifestyle was real.
I can show this lifestyle, I can say that it's the case, and to all intents and purposes, how much does the truth actually matter in this day and age if you see what looks to be proof I would imagine you meet a lot of people in that world all the time, and people just hang out, and there's people you kind of, you know, vicariously, or you know by association,
Yeah.
and then there's people you get closer to. So he's kind of always walking that line, quite a precarious tightrope.
But as much as fashion might be susceptible to, and I think this is the technical term, bullshitting, there's no getting away from the fact that Kin is charming. Hannah's mum, Jenny, remembers this too.
On one occasion, Hannah was coming on holiday with us. Kin drove her to the airport.
And I think you called me and I put you on speaker and passed the phone. Was he charming on the phone?
Yeah, completely. Oh, you don't need to thank me. It's my pleasure. All that kind of stuff, you know. I consider myself a fairly shrewd person, but I was completely taken in by him and his charm.
But was that charm part of something more elaborate? A persona that Kin created? Remember, we're yet to find any evidence of him really being a big deal in the fashion world. It's something that Jonathan Sabir, the data expert, has been wondering about.
You have to expend a lot of energy. You're going to a lot of events, you're meeting a lot of people, you are engineering a lot of things, there's a lot of energy being expended on just the contact and the relationship with Hannah, but on his whole kind of universe that he operates in as well.
A universe that includes lots of London's fanciest places. So armed with photos and preparing to be told to get lost, or possibly worse, one Thursday night, Hannah and Georgia start asking around about Kin in some of Mayfair's fanciest nightclubs.
So we're doing a recce of the places that Kin and I went to together. Places in particular where he seemed to get treated with special service. Let's do this.
They start at a club where Hannah went with Kin.
It's a really exclusive queues of people dressed really fancily, so they get accepted through the door. Whereas none of that for us.
Kin would just get waved through. Tonight, though, it's going to be a bit different.
We're from the BBC. We're making a podcast trying to find somebody who we know used to come to these clubs.
When he heard BBC journalist, he looked at us and said, "You're not getting any answers."
Do you recognise this person? So we're making a podcast for the BBC, and so we're just trying to...
You're either on the inside or you're on the fucking outside.
Can I ask you if you recognise somebody? Where are we?
We're on the fucking outside.
Can I just ask you if you recognise someone from a photo?
Bloody hell.
They said, don't recognise him. But if I did recognise him, I'd say I don't recognise him.
Yeah. I feel like if I had to do one more of these, I would burst into tears.
And we're not done yet.
We're doing a podcast for the BBC. I recognise this guy. No.
Is this unfun?
Yes.
I remember sitting just there with him. Yeah.
Do you recognise this person?
No. We've literally exhausted London's Mayfair doormen, and I feel like the next step is getting arrested. It's been a really stressful evening.
I'm sorry. Let's find a new approach.
Back in the studio, it's time to make some more calls. The first on our list is George Callisto, who used to run exclusive members clubs.
Older guy with white hair, really tanned.
An old newspaper article we found describes George as one of London's top club men.
The first time I met him, we were at the Maddox Club in Mayfair.
Hannah still has George's business card.
Oh, hi, is this George?
We didn't record George's end of the call.
We met with a mutual contact. Yeah, I'm doing a project with the BBC.
Like the security guard at London Fashion Week, George says he hasn't seen Kin for years, and since he retired from the club, Kin has stopped returning his calls.
Do you have any idea where he is?
Hannah asks him if he'll meet up so she can tell him more in person.
It would be nice if you had the time to maybe meet you for a coffee, just so I can explain.
And he says yes.
I'm free this week.
But then, the next day, he cancels. Rob, you followed up with George. What did he say?
He said that he cancelled because he didn't really want to get involved in whatever was going on between Kin and Hannah. So I then told him a little bit more about Hannah's experience and what she went through, and he did seem sympathetic, but he reiterated that he hadn't seen Kin for years and he didn't really want to get involved.
It feels like every person we speak to tells us they didn't really know Kin that well at all. And also, they haven't seen him for a while. Something we've been wondering about.
How do you go from being very active and around,
Jonathan Sabir again,
and lots of people know you and you're trying to get into lots of high profile places, to having no footprint at all? And why do you do that?
At this point, we're thinking Kin's low profile is probably connected to Hannah. Kin seems to have been around a lot less in London since Hannah reported him to the police.
And that a new wave of infections could overwhelm hospitals.
Though there was a global pandemic between then and now. So perhaps Kin hunkered down in Hong Kong. And if he did, maybe it was at that property that Hannah remembers from the photos he sent her. That fancy apartment with the amazing views across Hong Kong.
I remember Kin sending me photos of this really spectacular apartment in Hong Kong that he said belonged to him.
Hannah was left with the impression that was his place. And in the last episode, Rob managed to geolocate this building to one of the most expensive neighbourhoods in the world.
It appeared, for example, I'll show you here, a Financial Times article, Hot Properties, City Skylines.
In Hong Kong, it's known as the Peak, and journalist Jack Sang knows all about it.
Living there is a symbol of wealth and prestige.
We've enlisted Jack's help again to try to get to the bottom of whether Kin actually owned this property.
So, for example, the co-founder of the Alibaba Group, Jack Ma, also owns a house on the Peak.
He's rich.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So which is why local media always keep an eye on the market as well.
Especially the address in Kin's photos, the one on Pollock's Path.
This property is particularly iconic among other properties on the Peak because it was formerly the residence of a very famous Hong Kong movie star, Stephen Chow.
And because of that interest,
any changes of the ownership of this house, it will be on the news. So, according to the local property news and other official information we can gather, it has been owned by an investment company called Sincere Way Investment Limited since 2006. And the director of this company is an Indian tycoon. Local news reports also suggest that this Indian man, he owns multiple luxury properties in Hong Kong. So looking at the property market, it's understood that the owner has been trying to sell the property for several years, with the initial asking price in 2016 being around £75 million. £75
million.
It was reduced to around £60 million in June 2020. However, the sale seems to have been called off as there are no further sales records of the property afterwards. So, no doubt, the house is still owned by this investment company, and I couldn't see there any linkage between this investment company and Kin.
But in summary, pretty unlikely that it's his place, right? Like, he doesn't own it, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's 100% sure that he's not owning this place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is possible Kin rented the property. That would still make him ludicrously wealthy.
And so, were they trying to sell it in 2019?
Jack nods.
That's interesting because maybe they were offering tours, viewings. So maybe he took a viewing.
How easy would it be for someone to get a viewing, do you think, somewhere like a luxury property?
I think that's not very difficult, but because I think like Adrian will believe that he could afford getting a house there, and I also know some like other businessmen they will send their like secretary to look to do the house viewing on the Peak for them as well. So it's not that easy, but I don't think it's that difficult.
A viewing in 2019 would have been after Kin sent the photos to Hannah. So that's probably not the explanation. Maybe he never went in. Or maybe he was joking that this was actually his property. Though that wasn't the impression that Hannah got. We asked Kin whether he lied to Hannah about owning this specific property, but he never got back to us. Whatever the answer, we're yet to come across a property that Hannah went to with Kin that he actually owns. The place in Naples, Florida, where they stayed.
This house was on a compound that backed onto this huge lake.
That's not his. And Kin's London so-called crash pad.
It's not a cheap area.
Where the police turned up looking for him.
Printout of Kin and it said wanted.
It turns out that's not his either. When we checked the land registry records, we didn't find Kin's name. But the real owner's name was one that we'd seen before.
I work as a business development manager.
It's the name that Kin used to get into catwalk shows.
TrinityLimited.com.
We're going to call this person Raymond, and they'll play an important part in the next chapter in our story. Unlike Kin, there's a fair amount of information online about Raymond. And while we're trying to make sense of his connection to Kin, we spot some photos posted online. They've been taken at a birthday party, and in one there's a man and a woman smiling for the camera. The man's arm is resting on her shoulders. The pair appear to be close, and this seems like a family photo. The man is Kin.
He looks totally different to the Kin I knew. I don't think I've ever seen him wear a shirt. He was always dressed very fashion-y. Some designer jumper with tassels, or a leather jacket, or a suit jacket over a t-shirt, whereas here he's wearing...
He just looks like suburban dad, doesn't he?
Yeah.
We want to ask Raymond about this photo.
Shall we?
Yes.
About his connections to Kin. But he's not the easiest man to speak to.
No answer.
Leave a voice note?
Yeah.
I think maybe.
Yeah.
We can't find a number for Raymond, but we're able to work out who one of the other people in the photo is, and we find a number for them and leave a voice note.
I'm just getting in touch because I think that you might be able to help me figure out some things. So just give me a call or we can voice note if you prefer.
We don't hear anything for a couple of hours. And then the ticks go blue and I get this message.
Okay, so they're saying that they're going to get Raymond's UK solicitors to contact us.
The mention of solicitors makes us a little bit nervous.
We know that they know Kin, right? We know that there's some kind of close relationship there. So why are they being like, it feels like a very defensive thing to be like...
Very defensive.
We need to understand more. There's not much further we can go without starting to contact those close to him.
Mm.
But we don't get a threatening letter. Instead, Raymond's lawyers seem curious that we're asking about Kin. And they ask us some questions. We write back to the lawyers, and while we're waiting to hear more from them, we can't help but speculate about their relationship.
More clues as to how he might have done this. And
Raymond seems pretty wealthy. He's a businessman from Hong Kong.
Some kind of close relationship there.
Are they friends? Family? Why was Kin in his London flat? And what about the birthday photo?
Sometimes for the shows that you went to...
Jonathan Sabir has a theory.
I'm just thinking that you can be incredibly knowledgeable about somebody. You can have access to their legitimate wealth, but you can do that because you're in a position where you are providing a service for them, whether that all the way from like just being a personal assistant all the way through to something else. You would have access to the people's contact details. I'm sure they would let you borrow or have access to their properties, and you would go to events with their name on the tickets, all that kind of stuff.
In his work assessing online threats to athletes and celebrities, Jonathan has encountered plenty of assistants like these.
I'm aware of very wealthy people who have ostensibly personal assistants, but they are effectively like family friends, and they live in and they would have access.
If Kin had access to Raymond's London apartments, perhaps that's why he was also using his name to get into fashion events.
I mean, I know people who work in positions where they are an employee, but because they're a trusted employee, they get asked to, this is a real example, they will drive that person's mother shopping in the Ferrari. And, you know, they take out their supercars and they're booking guests onto the yacht. They have complete access to that world, and
they get to really see up close how that world operates. And London is full of these kinds of people catering for ultra-wealthy clients.
There are a lot of concierge services that allow you to buy into unobtainable experiences in London, etc. Real wealth are people who are paying 50 to 100 to 200 grand for dinner with an MP or something like that, or whatever it might be. Or tennis for restaurants. So there you go. If you followed the route of thinking that maybe this is somebody who has a job for multiple people where they are trying to facilitate this kind of stuff, then they would act as the concierge.
And with that in mind, Jonathan hits on a term that he thinks might apply to Kin.
Somebody who is adjacent but not of the wealth you're talking about.
Rich adjacent, I like that. So perhaps Kin really does inhabit this world, just not in the way that Hannah first thought. Which takes us to Kin's tennis match.
It was something he was interested in. When he was in London, he'd say, I'm going to play tennis with a friend, or I'm off to practice tennis.
We mentioned it way back in episode 3, when we found out that Kin was playing tennis in front of what looked like hundreds of spectators. This match is being played at London's exclusive Hurlingham Club. It's their annual tournament and attracts some of tennis's biggest names. Think Novak Djokovic, Rafa Nadal, Andy Murray, and Kin Hung. We were able to find the video you're hearing because Hannah had a photo of Kin twirling a tennis racket in the air, and in the background you could see sponsor boards and the names of the players on the scoreboard.
Because we know who was playing and exactly what the score was, and that event happened to be live streamed on their Facebook page, we're now able to find the exact moment that Kin came on and played tennis with the players. They're into the first set of their match. It's 5-4 to Rosetsky and Philippoussis.
Kin's playing doubles alongside tennis legends Greg Rosetsky and Mark Philippoussis.
That's Greg Rosetsky shouting.
What did he say?
I was like, come on, how did you miss that shot?
This video jumped out to us because it's filmed when the police were looking for Kin. And yet here he is, in front of hundreds of people, showing off. Or at least trying to.
Oh, he's missed another one. Greg Rosetsky comes on and now he's moving him around the court.
But then, in the final point, Kin actually manages to return the ball a few times. The crowd cheering as he jogs off the court.
Looking at their website, it says that there are ample opportunities to create money can't buy unforgettable experiences for your guests and creating memories and relationships that will last a lifetime. These include Pro-Am tennis clinics with legends of the game. I kept on looking into this, and this game actually isn't the first time Kin's been to the tournament. There was a post online of him at one of these Pro-Am clinics, as they're called, in a previous year, and when he was there, he was actually with some of the same professionals that he's playing this match with. It looks like he was a guest of a sponsor, don't know which one. So someone is willing to pay for him to be there in some form.
Even this tennis match is proving to be a bit of a mystery. So it's time to reach out to some other people who've come into contact with Kin.
It's Hannah here. You probably don't remember me, but we met a while ago in, say, 2015.
The person that Hannah's speaking to doesn't want to be named, but he remembers her, and more importantly, he remembers Kin very well. He even describes him as crazy, but in a sort of endearing way. And he gives us some details about Kin. I just thought that was all really colourful, the way he talked about him and the way that he described. And it seems that this person has some doubts about Kin's credentials too. Oh, he knew everybody, and that's also why he seemed legitimate. But their connection seems only skin deep, as we're finding with so many other people we're talking to. Except Raymond, the wealthy Hong Kong businessman. The photos we've seen suggest that he knows Kin pretty well, but we haven't heard from Raymond or his lawyers for a while. As we're looking for more information on Kin, we spot that Raymond posted a photo on his Facebook page standing in front of a 6-storey building on a pedestrianised street corner.
So,
Bike's okay.
yeah, keeping an eye on them.
I love that. I love the fact that gives you proper London colour. The fact that we're worrying about the bikes being nicked while recording. What we discover is that 6 years ago, Raymond bought the building through an offshore company in the British Virgin Islands. This building, it's a really landmark building. It was about 2 months ago, I was walking down this street and I noticed that the building was completely empty and boarded up and no sign of life, which struck me as just a little bit odd because it's such a prime piece of real estate, one of the most expensive bits of London.
And it's about to become even more relevant.
To tell.
Story.
Okay, come on.
No, I think I've got the email up. I mean, we can say that.
So the background.
We've been waiting for documents that we hope may shed some more light on the deal. It's a bit of a frustrating wait, but then they arrive. I love a bit of land registry sleuthing.
So is this just open to everyone?
Yeah, you pay £3. Actually, they've put the price up now. They make you send a cheque, and I was like, oh no,
I found a way of paying online.
Who has a chequebook anymore?
I think they're moving with the times. So there's a thing called an AP1 form. Whenever a property changes hands, that's the form you fill out so that it's updated on the land registry. But there are 2 other forms called TR1 forms. That's where it gets interesting.
Uh-huh.
On the day that Raymond bought the property, it wasn't a straight transaction from the person selling it. Ooh. There was a middleman. And the person bought it for £14.4 million.
Uh-huh.
And the very same day, he sold it on to Raymond.
Is that middleman Kin Hung?
Correct.
Now then, here's the big question. Is there a differential in price?
Yeah, about £2 million. I don't know if that all equates to profit, but it's still going to be a big sum of money.
So he flipped it. I love it. He flipped a property.
So Kin bought it for £14.4 million, and the very same day he sold it on to Raymond for $16.5 million. There's certainly some questions raised.
That's a pretty impressive flipping.
Yeah, it's not bad for a day's work.
Yeah. Next time, there's still so much more we need to unpack. But there's something we want to do first. Remember we told you that 1 in 5 women and 1 in 11 men will experience stalking in their lifetime. So many of them, like Hannah, feel let down by the police. It's far too common. And in many cases, the consequences are truly devastating.
What was your relationship with Alice like? Can I ask that?
There's the parents of another girl, exactly Hannah's age, who went to her school, and we want to speak to them.
Alice was like my best friend. And I think, actually, she was too polite to just tell him where to get off.
I just feel a bit shaken up tonight, so...
You can hear she's almost apologetic for calling the police and explains what's happening.
He's sending me a lot of messages even though I've asked him not to contact me.
She's really almost sorry to be a bother.
He's not done anything, but I'm concerned.